Hello, grade 2. Today's video, we're going to be still talking about time. Last week, Miss Mira taught us a lot of different things, and I'm going to start today's lesson by doing a review of the questions that she asked. So, telling the time, we learned this week that there are two different types of clocks. This one here is called an analog clock, and remember, I said it has a face and two hands. Sometimes it has three, and that is the second hand. We also looked at the digital clock time, and we know that this is still called a face, but it has no hands. We read the numbers, okay? It has the numbers 0 through to 9, which can make up the times. Right, so let's get to the questions. I'm going to read through all of them and then give you a few seconds to think about it before I tell you the answer. So, how many hours in a day? I hope that everyone remembers that there are 24 hours in one day. How many days in a week? Do you remember the Days of the Week song? That should help you remember that there are 7 days in 1 week. How many weeks in a year? There were 52 weeks, or they are 52 weeks in 1 year, and 12 months in 1 year. And how many days in each month? Now, for this question, there was a cool little poem that could help us remember. So I've just summarized that to help you if you cannot remember. Remember, grade 2, I said to you, we only really need to learn which 4 have 30 days, and we all know that February is always a special month. So the 4 that we need to remember are April, June, September, and November. All the rest of the months have 31 days except for February. Remember, we learned that if February has 29 days, that was called a leap year. So some more review. What are the two different clock types? If you were listening carefully, I said this at the start of the lesson. They are analog and digital. Now, grade 2, when we spoke about money, we know that 100 cents is equal to $1, and that's something we always needed to remember. For time, please remember it's not 100. The special number is 60. There are 60 seconds in 1 minute, and there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. The new vocab word for the week was century, and that means 100 years. Telling the time. So remember, this is an analog clock. It has a face, and at the moment, it doesn't have any hands. Now, this hand, the long one, tells us the minutes, okay? This long hand tells us the minutes. The short one tells us the hour. We know already that when the minute hand is facing the 12, we call this o'clock, and the hour is pointing at 3, so it's 3 o'clock. We also spoke about quarters. A few weeks ago, we even did roots and position and movement, and we learned about a quarter turn. Now, imagine that this circle was like a big pizza. We could cut it into 4 pieces, and it would have 4 right angles. In the same way, this is a quarter, okay, 90 degrees. And each of these quarters represent 15 minutes. So from the 12 to the 3 is 15 minutes, the 3 to the 6, and so on. If you take those 4 quarters and 15 plus 15 4 times, you will see that there are 60 minutes. So when the long hand, excuse me, the minute hand is facing the 12, once it goes all the way around, 60 minutes have passed. So again, this week we spoke about the imaginary line through the clock. Everything from 12 to 6, we would say, we use the word past. From 6 all the way till 12, we use the word to. Again, remember grade 2 that we count the minutes in 5s. 12 times 5 gives us 60, sorry. And we know that 60 minutes equals 1 hour. So between the 12 and the 1, In some clocks, you can count that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little jumps, okay? And this can help us to remember. So 5 minutes past if the minute hand is facing the 1, 10 minutes past. Please remember MINS, mins is the abbreviation for minutes, okay? Quarter past, 20 past, 25 past, half past, 25 minutes to, 22, quarter to, 10 to, and 5 to. Remember, the 12 is o'clock. I'm going to send this worksheet through to your parents. If you can, it would be great if you could print it, stick it on the wall, or stick it on in the fridge, somewhere that you can see it often, and practice telling your mom and dad the time. If you cannot print it at the moment, that's not a problem, okay? So digital clock time. Today, we're not going to look at the 24-hour clock. I just wanted to revise the 12-hour clock. So with this digital clock, it has 3 sets of numbers. Now, these last 2 numbers are the seconds. We don't speak about those. So if I wanted to say this time, you just say the numbers that you can see, starting on the left. So I would say this is 8:20, and that's absolutely perfect. With this one here, we could say it's 10:33. This is reading the digital time. Remember, we will learn how to say it differently as well, like 20 minutes past 8, okay? Or 27 minutes to 11, but that's a little bit more tricky, and we don't need to focus on that yet. So we know that the word elapsed means the amount of time that passes between one another. When this video is finished, I want you to look at how long it was, and you can tell me next week what was the elapsed time of my video. So grade 2, this question here, we can use subtraction. I want to see, say we had an exercise class that was at 5:15 in the morning and it ended at 5:45. The hours here are the same, so we just leave those alone. The minutes here, excuse me, the minutes here are larger than the start time, so we could just go 45 minus 15 to get the answer. Next week, I'm going to ask you to tell me what it is. The same with this question, my classes. I think you've done this already. And remember, I want to choose anybody, and I expect you all to be able to tell me the elapsed time. So let's practice saying the time. 10:30. We could also call this 10:30. 11:30 or 11:30. That's right. 2:15. Now 15 is a little bit different. Remember, we know that 1/4 of the clock is 15. So we could say that it is 2:15. That means a quarter of an hour has gone past 2 o'clock. 9:15. And this one, 6:45. Now this is a little bit different. We still use the word quarter, but remember, once the minute hand, if you imagine an analog clock, goes past the 6, we no longer use the word past, we use the word to. And when we say to, we are speaking about to the next hour. Did anyone get that right? This is 6:45. 6:45 is 6:45. Okay, so let's look at the let's investigate question. And we are going to imagine that there are some campers that are visiting an island. Groups of campers were going to an island. On the first day, 10 went over and 2 came back. On the second day, 12 went over and 3 came back. If this pattern continues, how many would be on the island at the end of a week? How many would have left? So grade 2, there are 2 parts to this question. The first part, how many campers will be at the island at the end of a week? How many days are in a week? And the second question is how many would have left? How many campers over 7 days left the island? So let's break this up and do it together. For those of you that don't know camping, camping is when you have a tent and you sleep outside. It's quite an adventure. And these are the little campers. So let's break up the question. Here is my island, and all 10 of my happy campers arrived by boats. On the first day, 10 went over and 2 came back. So that means out of my 10 happy campers, oh, there are 10 happy campers, 2 of them decided to go home. So on day 1, we had 10 minus 2, we were left with 8 campers. On the second day, we already have 8. Remember, day 1, those 8 are still sleeping on the island. There they are. 12 went over and 3 came back. So our number sentence now is 12 minus 3. 2 more came over than yesterday. So 10 changes to 12 and 3 left. Look how the numbers are changing. Can you start to look for a pattern? So grade 2, let me just get my campers. I hope you can see here, this 8 plus 9 equals 17. This means that at the end of day 2, there were 8 campers left from day 1, 9 campers left from day 2, and I plus them together to have a total so far of 17 campers. Oh, so we've done day 1 and day 2. For day 3, it says here, if this pattern continues, how many would be on the island at the end of the week? So grade 2, I've made a table for you. If you don't have access to a printer, it's not a problem. You take your workbook, you draw a line down the middle, day, and write your number sentence. That's all you need to do. So this big blue square has the answer underneath. So the big blue square is not going to disappear today. Grade 2, I hope you can see that each day the number increases by 2. 10, 12, 14, 16. It's increasing by 2, and the number that you subtract by is minusing by 1 more. So it's still consecutive numbers. Look at the subtraction. Minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, minus 5. So day 5, we're going to minus by 6. Very good. And the number we're going to subtract from will be 18, because 16 plus 2 is 18. Like I said, the magical answer is behind this blue square, and you are going to tell me the answer next week. Please remember, you also need to tell me how many people have left the island. How many campers left over 7 days? So question 2. Now question 2 takes a little bit of planning, so I hope that you do this question carefully. Let's read. Plan a day out to last 10 days from beginning to end. You can do more than one thing in a day. Use the information below. How many different days can you plan? Grade 2, you plan one day, I'm very happy. If you have extra time, try to plan another day. See how different you can make it. So I want you to remember here that there are various ways that we can split up 10 hours. We could have 10 activities, each for 1 hour, but some things can be longer or some things can be shorter. Make sure it is easy for you to understand and keep track of what you choose. So below the question are all the activities. Home to the bus station, 30 minutes. Playing on the beach, 2 hours. Swimming in the pool, 1 hour. Now, I would like you to use these words and keep the same time. If you really want to change one, you can only change the activity, not the minutes, okay? So say I don't think I'm gonna walk from the railway station to the beach because the railway station is very far from my house. I could say I could walk to the corner shop that takes 15 minutes. But please make sure you read all of them because they already have home to the shops, but that is by car or by bike. So please read through everything. Try to keep them the same. If you change it, you are more likely to make a little bit of an error. So this was my example of what you could change, maybe having lunch with the family or playing in the park, etc. Grade 2, When you do this question, you have to use this magical device called a pencil. Please, because if you make a mistake, you don't want to start all over again. If you use a pencil, we can just erase it. So I want you to print the table that I created for you. If you cannot print it, not a problem. Just make sure you draw 1, 2, 3, 4 columns, have the same headings as me, and we could then complete the question. So question 2 says, show the times that you leave and arrive home on both analog and digital clocks for each day out. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. They want both analog and digital. This is my example. Day 1, wake up at 7:30. Activity, meal at home. I had breakfast. So I took my 7:30 to 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. in the morning, because we eat breakfast in the morning, right? I then drew the time on my analog clock face. If you have breakfast earlier than that, or if you wake up at 6 o'clock, change it. Make sure you write down the start time, because this start time will enable you to do the rest of it. Try to keep it in maybe 7:30 or 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or 8:30. If you're going to start on like 7:15, for example, or 7:10, it's going to make your work a little bit more challenging for you. So try to stick it at 1 hour or a 30-minute break. So this is my continued example. I woke up at 7:30 until 8 o'clock. I then traveled from my home to the railway station. The timetable here says that that takes 1 hour, okay? That means I traveled from 8 o'clock until 9 o'clock. There's my picture of my clock. Once I arrived at the railway station, I took the train to the beach, and it was only 15 minutes. That's from 9 to 9:15. Now it's 9:15. So my next activity, maybe I could have lunch on the beach, or it's quite early for lunch. Maybe I will go and swim on the beach or play with my friends. Try to make a whole day. Please remember, grade 2, to keep track of how much time you are spending on each activity, because it has to be a total of 10 hours. So if I chose something that has 30 minutes at any stage, I know that I need to have something with 30 minutes as well to make 1 hour. Or I could have 30 minutes and 2 lots of 15 minutes, 2 quarter hours. So please be careful with this question. Please try your best. I wanted to show you one last thing. Give me a second. This website here, mathsisfun.com/time clocks analog digital. Now, this is one of my favorite websites. I love this website. But it has this really cool function. So say now we at the beach and what was it, 9:15, blah, 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 9:15, right? And then I go and spend 2 hours at the beach playing with my friends. So 9:15, 10:15, 11:15. But I'm not sure what that looks like on a clock. You can change it here, 9:15, all the way around, 11:15. Look at the hour hand is on the 11, the minute hand is on the 3, and the analog clock to make sure we chose the right time. So please use this website if you are not sure how to write the analog clock on the write the analog time on the clock face. Okay, please use this. So the last thing I have for today are some challenge questions. If the minute hand starts at 12 and moves halfway around the clock, what number will it point to? How many minutes to halfway around? What is half of a clock, basically? If the minute hand moves a quarter way around the clock, which number will it point to? Again, that is starting from 12. And how many minutes to 3/4 of the way around the clock? Starting at 12, 3/4 of the way, how many minutes is that? So grade 2, that is all for today. Please watch this video, more than once, okay? I think you should watch it maybe 3 times because there's a lot of things that we need to do and you have to make sure you understand the question. But of course, if you have a problem, do not worry because next week we have all your fantastic teachers that will help you to understand more in our online class. Okay? Take care, everybody. See you next time.